Meet Danny Santana, founder of I.T.Y, a chief executive and dedicated advocate for community outreach and mentoring. With a strong background in recovery and a passion for helping others, Danny has made a significant impact in his community through his work with various organizations and initiatives. Danny Santana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother Joey, man. It's been a long, busy day for me today. I'm happy to be here.
So, can you tell us where were you born and raised, and what was your childhood looking like growing up?
Well, I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. Um, I was awarded a child of the state when I was 9 years old. So from the age of 9 to 18, I pretty much ran from foster home to foster home, DYS to DYS. Um, my first time in DYS, I was 11 years old, and I ended up running through all the DYSs in the state of Massachusetts. Family's family. Every family's got their
Right,
issues or their
right.
trauma. I want to say that I went through a lot of childhood trauma early on in age, and once I became awarded a child of the state, I pretty much had to learn how to fend for myself.
Mm.
Um, Not that my family wasn't there because they were, but you just you just learn how to you just know how to become somebody that you're not meant to be early in life. I had a lot of animosity and anger towards my parents when I was young because I didn't understand the generational curses that were passed down to them that they ended up ultimately passing down to me. And it wasn't until I became older, um, after a number of incarcerations, um, that I learned how to, let go of grudges, let go of resents with my parents.
Hmm.
But I love my parents. I have a wonderful relationship with my parents nowadays. I'm 43 years old. I want to say that at 24 is when I let go of a lot of resent and grudges that I held against them. Once I realized that I was doing to my own kids what they had done to me, it was easier to understand why they had done what they did to me.
So, how did that lead you to go to the streets?
I was running in the streets early in life. Um, I was running with the Latin King since I was the age of 12. Um, Originally out of PHP, Pinnacle Heights, New Britain, in Connecticut, under charter. Um, and then as I was going back and forth between my mother's side of the family and my father's side of the family, it's something that was just installed. You know, my mom is in them are originally from Chicago, Lafayette Projects, Humble Park. So this is a generational curse that was passed down to generation to generation. So gang life has always been a part of my family. Now,
Hmm.
not all of my uncles chose that lifestyle, but the majority of my uncles did. My grandfather was a Latin king in Chicago. My grandmother was never a Latin queen, but through my grandfather, she was affiliated
Hmm.
to a lot of them. You know,
Hmm.
uh, my uncle George was a Latin cobra, and
Hmm.
I got numbers of cousins that were either GDs or Latin kings. So gang life in my family has always been, it's always had a presence.
How was that like? I mean, how did it feel? Growing up, did you think it was something that it was pressured that you had to do just because it was a family lineage, or it was something that you went through growing up?
I don't think it was something that I was pressured to do. I think it was something that because I seen that that's the type of lifestyle that those that were older than me were living. It's the lifestyle that attracted me and that I chose to live. You got to understand that once I became an awarded a child of the state, I pretty much made my own decisions on how I wanted to live. My father didn't raise me to be a man because he didn't know how to raise me to be a man. Not saying that my father wasn't a man, because he was. He just didn't have the proper tutelage to teach a son how to become a man and how not to fall into the hardships of life.
Right.
And when I was young, I was very rebellious. My parents would tell me one thing, and out of resent and anger, I would do the other. So it wasn't until I became an actual adult and started having kids of my own that I understand why I acted the way that I acted, why I became so prone to violence and certain addictions in life, like drugs, money, the streets. Um,
Mhm.
I come from a good family. I'm the only one in my family. There's seven of us. I'm the only one in my family who truly lived a gang lifestyle. All of my younger brothers never lived that lifestyle. You know, three of my younger brothers, even though nobody's going to college, but are good fathers, good providers.
Mhm.
One of my younger brothers um, sort of wanted to follow the same footsteps as me and just became a nobody in life, honestly.
Mhm.
You know,
Where did the rebellion come from?
I think the rebellion came from the resent and grudges that I held against my family for not understanding that what I was going through was the generational curse that was passed down from generation to generation. You know,
Mhm.
they didn't talk about things like substance abuse and mental health. These are things
Mhm.
that we can acknowledge now,
Mhm.
this generation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Our generation, when we was growing up, those aren't things that family members talked about.
Mhm.
You know,
At all.
grandma being locked up in the noonie bed, Theo going to the hospital being locked up in the noonie bed were things that were talked about on the hush,
Mhm.
talked about openly in front of people. You know,
Mhm.
I witnessed my grandmother very violent. You know, my grandmother stabbed my grandfather like 9 times. Out of those 9 times, I must have witnessed it 4 times. You know, and my mother, she was a product of her environment. The type of men that she was attracted to was what she was seeing growing up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And although I love my mother very much dearly today, but she made very poor choices in the men that she dated.
Mhm.
Starting from my father, who was a military man, but at the same time was one of the biggest drug dealers in Connecticut.
Mhm.
For my stepfather, who came straight from the island, and although he wasn't a military man, he was also a very heavy pusher in the drug game. So my mother lived a lavish life that came with a lot of domestic violence involved in that life. So I
Mhm.
grew up seeing that. I grew up seeing my mother being physically beat numerous of times, and I think that was part factor some of the resent and grudges that I held, or why she continued to allow that to happen, not understanding that she was in a lose-lose situation. You know,
Mhm.
much as a child, I would have wanted her to make certain things stop. She didn't have it in her ability or the powers to make those things stop because she was stuck.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of transformed me to being who I was and how I was. You know,
Mhm.
I wasn't intentionally wishing to grow up being a woman abuser, a drug abuser, anything like that. But I found myself in domestics and early relationships because I didn't know how to identify certain
Mhm.
insecurities that men have that are part of the hardships of life. You know, nobody taught me what it was to be a man. Nobody taught me what it was to be in a relationship. Nobody taught me the proper way of how to treat a woman. So I learned on my own through trial and error, you know,
Mhm.
and some of the errors that I made in life are gonna haunt me to the day that I die. But the majority of the errors that I made in life, I've been able to rectify and forgive myself for those errors, because
Mhm.
I was to blame at the time, I wasn't to blame now, because you couldn't really hold me accountable for what I didn't know. And nobody never taught me how to be a loving father, how to be a loving individual. How did anybody expect me to learn or know how to be a loving individual to a person who I was potentially in a relationship
Mhm. You know, a lot of people go through family generational curses. A lot of people go through trauma, uh, fighting with depression, anxiety, mental health, suicidal thoughts. There's a lot of teenagers and grown men who are fighting with this on a daily. And as for me, I ran to the streets because I was running away from home. My father is a great man, but once addiction and alcohol just took over him, his way of thinking, his lifestyle, the way he treated us, when he was under the influence, it was terrible, right? So we we get rebellious, we go through trauma, we go through hurt, we go through pain, and a lot of times, us being young, we can't think proper, so we just run. I don't want to be. We just run to the streets, right? We got to teach ourselves how to be grown men, and we have to teach ourselves how to survive. We got to teach ourselves how to fight with this, um, with our inner self, right? Because sometimes we run from trauma, sometimes we run from pain, and it's like we feel like we're running, but we actually running in place. We don't get nowhere, And then we see the gang life, we see the streets, and at the time we feel like, okay, that's so-called family. We gonna be here. We gonna be there. We got you. And then once we deep in it, it's like, okay, it's different, right? You go to
right?
prison, drug addiction, confusion, uh, manipulation. How many years you did in prison? Walk me through that. That street lifestyle that you had, so those that are watching, this interview, to understand what it's like when you're involved deep in the streets, when you're involved in the gangs and living that lifestyle.
You know, I ended up doing a total of 17 years in prison, and I never spent more than 6 months at a time out in the world in between those 17 years as an adult. I'm not talking about 17 years as a juvenile. I was going through juvenile from the age of 11 till I was 18. But my first time hitting an actual adult facility, I was 2 months shy of my 17th birthday. The first time I ever walked through them Tonka doors, and I was
Hmm.
as an adult. Um, and it's funny because most people are like, wow, how is it possible that you were sentenced 2 months shy of your 17th birthday as an adult? And the problem is that as a juvenile, I had already become a repeat offender at the age of 15.
Hmm.
So when I caught these charges where I got sentenced as an adult,
Hmm.
the system in Boston found no other alternative but to send me up the way. So I did a lot of back and forth. It was a revolving door for me, revolving door because every time I came out, I didn't come out, even though I always held a job. That's one thing about me since I was young, since my preteens, I always managed to maintain employment.
Hmm.
But it wasn't enough to keep me away from the gang lifestyle that I was attracted to, being the Latin king in the streets of Boston. You know, that's a lifestyle that I had to learn how to grow out of. how to mature out of, how to overcome. And the sad part is that there's a lot of individuals who would die, go to their grave, not maturing enough in life to overcome that. You know, gang
Mhm.
lifestyles for young dudes,
Mhm.
it should be a phase. If that's something that they're attracted to, that should be something that should be a phase. It shouldn't be something that should be a lifelong endeavor. And for
Mhm.
some people, they just don't get that. So
Mhm.
they wind up either in prison for the rest of their life, or they wind up 6 feet under, dead and cold. You know, and for individuals like us who, unfortunately have to really go through some shit to wake up. I've been shot 3 times. I've been stabbed 12 times. You know, I've gone through and seen some real horrors in prison to where I was strapped to a chair for 18 hours and forced to piss and shit on myself while the CEOs laughed about it. Or I was giving blanket parties where I'm in the hole and I'm asleep, and then a bunch of CEOs creep in, put a blanket over me, and all you see is boots walking out. Or the number of
Mhm.
times that I've been jumped, with soap in the sock or batteries in the sock, you know, or the number of times that I was poked up with shanks. Like, these are real horrors that
Mhm.
I sit through and survive.
Mhm.
You know, I've gotten so many head conclusions and blows to the head that I'm lucky to still be alive. You
Mhm.
know, and I'm 43 years old. I'm a cripple for life. Because the last stabbing that I received left me a cripple. It was either dead or a cripple. And God
Mhm.
blessed me to be alive, but I'm a cripple. You see, I can lift this
Mhm.
arm up, do all this with that. I can't do that with this. You see, this is as high as
Mhm.
I got it,
Mhm.
and it doesn't. I can hold it, and I hold it with this, but this is as high as I can. So I'm not able to exercise like I used to. I'm not able to do pull-ups. I'm not able to do push-ups. You know, And this is one of the reasons why I chose to change my life because I can't continue living that lifestyle. I can't defend myself. You know,
Mhm.
dudes run up on me right now. Physically they're gonna wipe me
Mhm.
because I'm not as physical or agile as I was when I was younger. You
Mhm.
know, and I gotta be grateful that I'm still alive. I should have been dead many times over with everything that I've gone through in life. But there's a reason, there's a purpose that I'm here. And I didn't understand what my purpose was 8 years ago when I made a final decision to walk away from that life. I just knew that enough was enough. I've had enough, and something had to give.
Mhm.
That's that's when I first had a real true connection to my higher power, to my spirituality. Because to be a gang member and be willing to do violence to somebody else and commit harm to somebody else, you gotta have no empathy. You gotta have such a disconnect, a discord with a higher power that doesn't attack your conscience of what's right and what's wrong. An individual who can blatantly do harm to another person, it's because he has a severe disconnection with whoever his higher power is, whoever his God is. Those that have a connection with God feel love, feel empathy, have a conscience, know right from wrong. Because these
Mhm.
are values that having a connection with God instills in you. You know,
Mhm.
having faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. And even you, I'm sure you can relate to this that when you was living that lifestyle, you didn't have faith. You didn't have a
No.
connection to a higher power.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because it's something telling you, listen, what you're doing is wrong. Don't do that.
Mhm.
There wasn't none of that.
I believe that, I'm very spiritual. I believe in God and I know there's a devil. Um, the Bible says the devil comes to kill, destroy, and confuse so many and lead them to the path of destruction. Jesus come to save, and it's like the world nowadays is cold, is cruel, it's getting worse by the day, man. Man,
Um,
you got so many kids right now committing suicides.
when we was
You
growing
know,
up, the majority of the murders that we witnessed or heard about were being committed from guys that were older,
mhm,
25 and older.
mhm,
Hey, the majority of the murders that we see that are being committed right now are youth between the ages of 14 and 23.
mhm,
Our counties look like a modern day DYS because the majority of these kids who are facing life charges don't even know how to read or write, my brother. And it's sad. They don't know how to sign their own John hand card. They don't know the simple things that's common sense for them to be educated.
mhm,
Their high school dropouts, they didn't finish their education, didn't take a trade to further their education in any way, because the streets are attracting these youth with the
mhm,
mythology of false doctrine of what street life is. Our kids are killing each other over streets and hoods that don't belong to them. They don't know about how to file taxes. They don't know how to register to vote and
mhm,
exercise your constitutional right to vote.
mhm,
They don't know how to buy a house or real estate. They don't know. Most of these kids don't even know how to open up a bank account to start saving.
mhm,
You know, and these are the fundamentals that ain't being taught in our schools no more. Like when we was
mhm.
growing up, we had life skills, home ec, word. Life skills.
Financial literacy.
Life
Mhm,
skills taught you how to change
mhm,
a tire, how to change oil,
mhm, mhm,
how to sew
mhm,
something that needed to be sold. Home ec taught you how to cook. You know, what
mhm,
taught you how to build things. How to get into carpentry.
mhm, mhm,
Our
mhm.
schools ain't teaching the kids like this no more.
Yeah,
And not,
you giving me flashbacks, man.
and not financial literacy. You
Mhm,
know what I'm
mhm,
saying?
mhm,
The simple things are how to budget and
mhm,
manage money and open up a bank
mhm, mhm,
and being
mhm,
able to save to buy real estate so that you can have some type of financial dependency.
mhm, mhm,
Our kids, the system is designed for our kids to depend on the government to support them. Look
most
at
definitely, and it's worse now, man. It's
look at
worse
what's
now.
right now that they took away SNAP benefits from 42
Mhm, mhm,
22 million people.
mhm,
There's 42
mhm,
million people that depend on the
mhm,
government that aren't
mhm.
proficient enough to go out there to get a job to make it out.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm,
that's 42 million people who right now are going to be committing crime. Who,
mhm,
who, if they didn't have a substance abuse before, they're going to wind up with one. All right, and mental
mhm,
health and substance abuse go hand in hand. Okay,
mhm,
there is nobody that's suffering from substance abuse, from addiction, that doesn't suffer from mental health. That goes hand in hand. So
mhm,
now you're seeing the rise of mental health and substance abuse. Now you're going to see the rise of crime like never before. And that's what President Trump wants. He wants a mass
mhm,
hysteria to be able to justify, martial law, to be able to justify what his officers are doing,
mhm, mhm,
revoking and violating our civil rights, our constitutional rights.
mhm,
And the people don't wake up to what's going on and they fall into the trap because every time we're out there and we do a peaceful protest that turns into violence, that's a reason for him to send more troops, more National Guards into our cities to do
mhm.
what he's doing,
Right.
right? Because this is something that's been going on since the beginning of time.
Mhm,
Men want to conquer and destroy. How many men do we know that are 30, 35, coming home from doing 10, 15 years and still acting like they're 21?
Mm,
Or never
mm,
mind coming home. How many men do we know that been nickeling and diming in the hood and been nickeling and diming for the last 15, 20 years and still ain't made nothing of themselves?
mhm, mhm.
Think about it, right?
Right.
They quick to give another younger brother a pack of drugs or a gun. Hey, my brother, get on your feet, go do this, go do that. But they ain't quick to help him to go make a resume. They ain't quick to go buy him a suit to put on so he can get a job. They ain't quick to help him to go do an application to get into a trade or the union. But they quick to give him a one-way ticket back to prison or to a grave cell.
A lot of these people don't know how to break family, generational curses, and because of it, they thinking that that lifestyle is okay, it's all right. My mother lived this lifestyle. My father told me this lifestyle. I see my uncle still doing it, and they still stuck in the hood. So that's all they see. They don't see beyond the hood. That's all they know. So you got these youngest growing up thinking it's cool because you got the guys with the rims, the guys with the cars, with the money. So it's like, why leave the neighborhood when I can sit here and sell packs too? So it's going in circle because they don't know how to break family generational curses.
You know, it's sad because I haven't been affiliated in 8 years, right? And to this day, I'm still dealing with the ignorance and immaturity of guys who are stuck living that lifestyle, who aren't able to mature enough and to grow up and to see that I don't live that lifestyle no more. I still got guys living that lifestyle talk about, oh, Manito Diamond's a rat. And un chota, mira, trabajando con la policía, doing this and that. Nah.
Mhm.
When I was living that lifestyle, I had no value to me. I had no real friendships. I didn't have people in society that I can call upon when I needed them to instruct me or to show me how to do something. I have today in life what I never had as a gang member, and that's real respect. That's real admiration for my community. That's real consideration for my own family. Real love. I
A
didn't have.
lot, a lot of people A lot of people don't want to see you do good, brother. A lot of people don't want to see you, climb to that mountain of success. A lot of people going to want to see you the same way. So those so-called hermanitos, you know what I mean, are always going to see us as, you know, as a Latin king or as a Spanish cobra, and it's like, sometimes you got to remind them, look where you at. I went to prison. I did state time. I did federal time. I came out, changed my life around. Why can't you do it? And not only that, you older. You still running around like a little child, thinking that it's sweet out here that you want to do the same thing you did 20 years ago, and you still in the same spot.
I be I be telling them like, yo, I'm any day now I could be a grandfather. I'm blessed that my
Mhm.
daughter, none of my daughters have
Mhm.
a grandfather yet, but
Mhm. Mhm.
right around the corner. What do I look like being a granddaddy still talking about your birthday day? Bang, bang, gang, gang.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
seriously,
Mhm. Mhm.
how childish does
Yeah.
that sound like? That I will
Mhm.
go to prison, do 17 years of my life, sacrifice 17 years of not being able to see my loved ones, those that I love most dying on me while I'm in prison and not having the
Mhm.
chance to say my goodbye, to come home
Mhm.
and still continue the same thing. You know what insanity
Mhm.
is? Insanity is
Mhm.
doing the same steps repeated, expecting a different outcome. That's
Mhm.
insanity. And unfortunately, a lot of my manitos that I love, that I once cherished, are stuck in that inside insanity. You know, a lot of my manitos that I once acknowledged are stuck in that immaturity.
Mhm.
You want to do harm to me, Superior Corona, Sonny, oh, Manito Diamond's a rat, da da da. He wants to. Yo, I've been stabbed already. Y'all tried to kill me 3 times and didn't do it. I'm still here.
Mhm.
But you still
Mhm.
want to keep with the ignorance.
Mhm.
That didn't change me from who I am. It's that animal.
Mhm.
Because that's inside of
Mhm.
me. But I reached
Mhm.
a God that taught me how to be different. How to put that animal in the cage where he belongs.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with being a man of God. That has nothing to do with
Mhm.
being righteous. But you want to force me to go into a spot, a corner where I got no way out. That animal's gonna come out that cage.
Mhm. That's how
I
they want you though.
I
That's
live
what you they. That's what they want you to do.
I live my life every day fighting the devil because the devil comes at me in all kinds of forms. They can come at me through the form of a woman that's no good,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
me through the form of family member that's blood,
Mhm. Most
has
definitely.
that has nothing but bad intentions for me out of envy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Brother, my own blood brother conspired to murder me with these so-called hermanitos that I have.
Mhm.
Okay? My own blood brother had a lot to do with why I got stabbed 12 times and almost didn't make it.
Mhm.
To the point where if I would have caught him when I was looking for him, I promise you I would have killed him without thinking twice about it.
Mhm.
You know what it is to have both your parents begging you, please don't kill my son. Busca de Dios, Dani. Busca de Dios que te cambie tu corazón, que te quite ese recuerdo.
Mhm.
And I can't
Yeah, man.
stand being in his presence more than 10 minutes. Yeah, I hug him or whatever, but it's it's fake. None of it's real love because I can never trust him. I can never give my back to him. And though I understand today that what he did was out of jealousy and envy, and out of having mental health and substance abuse because my whole family suffers from that, it still doesn't erase that I almost lost my life because of you. It still doesn't erase that at one point I was willing to kill you, you know. And as I'm in recovery right now, going through my 12 steps, you know, and got a sponsor, and I do AA 3 times a week, you know, and I do commitments. I do it because it reminds me of where I don't want to be mentally,
Right. Right. Mhm.
emotionally, and spiritually. See, I have
Mhm.
a peace that I feel in life that I never felt before. So when I'm blessed with an amazing woman that I don't have to worry about her cheating on me, stepping out on me. You know, she might be a pain at times, but she's a pain for all the right reasons. Because when
Mhm.
I'm slipping, she's the one that puts me back on the track. When I'm down
Mhm.
and hurt, she's the one that lifts me up. You know, she's the only woman that I've ever had that I've not stepped out on. Why? Because I recognize the blessings that God has given me to bring that woman in my life. When I was living that lifestyle, and like you wrote in your book, we had suicidal ideologies. We had
Mhm.
suicidal
Definitely.
ideologies because we had no conception of who we
Mhm.
were as individuals, as men.
Mhm.
We had no conception of what our 10 feet on the ground stood for.
Mhm.
We had no purpose. We was lost souls with no purpose or direction. And it wasn't until we made that connection con Dios that we
Mhm.
finally was able
That's
to
right.
start understanding these generational curses that were passed down.
Mhm. Mhm.
The mental health that people say that's hereditary. No, that's not hereditary. Those
Mhm.
are learned things that are passed down from generation to generation. The
Mhm.
system was designed to keep our people under.
Mhm.
The system wasn't designed for us to be rich among the elite.
Of course not. Mhm.
Meant to be rich people, they have to be really poor people.
Mhm.
That's how the system was designed. It wasn't designed for me to learn how to be a judge, to learn how to be a detective, to learn how to be a lawyer, to learn how to be a doctor. People like you and me, black and brown, we gotta fight
Mhm.
for those things. And then
Mhm.
when we
Mhm.
do attain those things, they start identifying themselves like they no longer part of who we are and where we come from. They think they're too good, and I can never forget where I come from. I can never forget the hell, the fire that I walked through. Religion's for people who are afraid to go to hell. And spirituality for people like me and you are people who
Mhm.
know what the hell to be in hell feels like
Mhm.
because we've been
Mhm.
there. Not once or twice, many times. We walked through the fire to
Mhm.
hell with the devil on that
Mhm.
shoulder, whispering that,
Mhm.
you know,
Hmm.
that voice that only you can hear.
A lot of people don't know what that feels like.
Listen, I had 12 years of sobriety, but I come to realize that the only reason why I had 12 years of sobriety was because I either had parole and probation. I had to piss in a cup 2, 3 times a week, and
Mhm.
because I didn't want to be going back to jail, that's why I had 12 years of sobriety. When everything was said and done, that I had
Mhm.
no more people breathing down my shoulder, that I was no longer a part of the system, that I didn't have to go report to a parole officer or probation officer,
Mhm.
what did I end up falling back into? Addiction.
Mhm. Mhm.
Addiction. To the point where I could have lost everything that I just worked so hard to build. My brand, my nonprofit, my organization. If my board members and my funders didn't admire me and respect me enough to sit me down, like you, you can fool everybody else, but that only went for so long.
Mhm.
When I went from weighing 193 pounds to weighing 123 pounds, there's only two things that are going on. I'm either really sick and I'm almost dying,
Mhm.
or I'm killing myself through addiction. I cannot hide my addiction from those that love me no more. Because no matter what I say, they could see it in my physical appearance.
Mhm.
Those that love me and admire me could see it in my physical appearance. And
Who
the
was up with you?
and the only one that was there is the woman that I got in my back right now that's still beside me. The one that's like, Puppy, you're meant more than that. Until I hit a point, until I hit a point where I couldn't not look in the mirror and not see who I was looking at. I'm in recovery right now because I chose to be in recovery. Not because I had people that were nagging on me, like, oh, you need to go get help. You need to go do something with yourself. Nah. Forget like recovery's not for people that need it. Recovery's for people that want it. You gotta want
Mhm.
to be in recovery. You gotta want
Mhm.
to fight the addiction. The problem is that we don't know the addiction. They say it's a disease, but it's a mind state. It's a mental mind state of being.
It is. It is.
It's
Yeah.
a phenomenal of craving. It doesn't matter whether you're an alcoholic, a crackhead, or a heroin addict. Once you start, you can't stop. That's the mind. That's the mentality of an addict. I remember looking at a heroin addict, a meth head. That's up.
Mhm.
Like, but there's a saying in Spanish. El guindao no puede hablar de los caos.
Mhm.
You can't talk about the next man that has another addiction because you're both
Mhm.
suffering from the same demon.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's easy, man. It's easy, bro, to it's easy to fall. It's easy to go back to the old ways and get addicted and use drugs and go to the store, liquor store, and just buy a bottle of alcohol. You know what I mean? Just drinking. It's easy. But it's hard for you to stay focused. It's hard for you to stay positive. It's hard for you to walk on a righteous path.
You got one shield and one sword. You got 100 enemies in front of you and 100 brothers behind you. Where do you place your sword and your shield? You know you're gonna place your sword in your hand in front of you, but
Mm-hmm.
you place your shield on your back to protect yourself
Mm-hmm.
from the others who claim that they love you because they're gonna be the
Mm,
stab you in the back.
mm,
It's not the enemy in front of you
mm,
that you're charging, that you're fighting, that you got to worry about.
mm.
It's your
That
own
was
so-called
deep.
hermanos that are gonna stab
That
you
was
in the
deep.
back to take your life before you allow so-called enemy to take your life.
Break it down. How they gonna get you 1st. Mm-hmm.
You're gonna sacrifice in this nation more than you're ever gonna get in return, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
about what the nation can do for you. It's always going to be about what you can do for the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got these so-called hermanitos that are still running out here in the streets, talk about, oh, hermanito Diamond's a rat because he changed his life and he's working with this and he's doing that. Or hermanito Diamond's no good because he's no longer rocking the way that we're rocking. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
When do you say enough is enough? You just finished coming home from the feds, from doing 5, 10 years, for struggling. You know the same struggles and horrors that I talk about that I live, because you lived it with yourself. But you want to come home doing all these rap videos, condoning that lifestyle, condoning killing another person, condoning getting money, getting high, jewelry, cars, a false ideology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You talk about
Definitely, definitely
your
false.
father to 2, 3, 4 beautiful children that you're
Mm-hmm.
proud to get a chance to see them. But you don't do what you got to do to be around to make sure that you don't ever have to miss years out their life the way that you did.
What
But
made you change?
but
What
you
made you change your lifestyle? What was the point? They said, you know what? Me cansé. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore.
8 years ago, I had just came home from doing 3.5, and I wasn't even home 3, 4 days, and I was already getting shot at. Like dudes were really trying to off me.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself being strapped up again, smoking oolies. And one day I'm in my phone bus over here on River Street. It was like I was with like 9 hermanitos, like four out the 9 of us were strapped to the T, you know. And I'm sitting in my phone bus and and I must have smoked like no lie, like a half a ball of wools that day.
Mm-hmm.
But as many wools as I smoked, I wasn't high. I wasn't feeling the effects of being high. And I'm sitting in my kumbas, and this girl that she wasn't ugly, she was kind of bad, trying to get me to buy her drinks and stuff. And I'm looking at this, you
Mm-hmm.
know, what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here like I'm working 40, 45, 50 hours a week to spend more than half of my check and getting high and drinking on worthless women, getting
Mm-hmm.
hotel rooms, getting rentals.
Mm-hmm.
Something just overcame me. While their manitos were in and out the bathrooms, poniéndose cantazo here, doing that, drinking, you
Mm-hmm.
know, hitting the hookah, whatever. I'm looking around like I don't want to be here right now. This isn't the life that I want to live no more. And something hit me that life at that time, 8 years ago, in the middle of my phone box, going through all that none of this is going to change unless I change it, unless I make an effort to change it. Something just dawned on me. The next day, I decided to switch everything up. I stopped hanging with the manitos. I stopped going clubbing. Instead of going out on the weekends, I was going to Copley Library and started educating myself, started reading books. Nobody was going to teach me what I wanted to learn to get to where I wanted to get, so I had to start doing it myself.
That's right. That's right.
And that's how it began for me. I went from working one part-time job to working a full-time job and two part-times and going to Copley Library 3 days out the week on days that I didn't work to read books to educate myself. If I could read 4,879 novels while being in prison, why can't I continue to read while being outside to continue to educate myself now that I had the freedom to do something with it?
Where did ITY come from? And
So,
what gave you the motivation to get that started,
so this is
created?
how it happened. This is how it happened. I came home and I was doing the gun violence walk with an organization called BAM, Becoming a Man. And one of my mans who I respected, who was a Muslim brother, was a mentor for this program, right? Originally, my program was supposed to be called Fathers Against Guns, Gangs, and Domestics. But I didn't like the sound of that acronym, FAG. I didn't like the sound of that acronym,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I'm doing the walk with them, and I didn't know what BAM stood for, Becoming a Man.
Mm-hmm.
I had no concept that BAM was an acronym for Becoming a Man. So when I asked this individual who I respected as a brother, like, yo, what's BAM saying? He was like, oh, Becoming a Man. And I was like, I was like, oh wow, like wow, that really, that really stuck with me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I don't want to name my program Fathers Against Gangs and Domestics. I want to,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, well, what do you want to name it? I was like, I don't know. He was like, name it what you do. He's like, what do I do? You inspire the youth. You inspire today's youth.
Mm-hmm.
ITY.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
There you
I
go.
came by.
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with ITY. And at
Mm-hmm.
first, inspiring today's youth. And
For how
ultimately,
long now?
2017. I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing ITY since 2017. And we just
Mm-hmm.
became a 501c3 this year.
It's a process, but you're doing it.
But look at the process of where I started to where I am today, to where I run the largest youth gang mentorship program in the city of Boston. I provide food safety, I provide clothes safety, I provide legal advocacy for youth and adults. I provide feeding the hunger at night, mass and cats, 10:30 to
Mm-hmm.
12. I've been feeding mass and cats since 2017. And there was a while where I was doing videos of me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for me to do it because what I do in the community speaks for itself. You know how many people
Mm-hmm.
have accused me of being a poverty pimp, a poverty
Oh,
pimping, and I didn't know, I didn't understand what poverty pimping was at first. I didn't understand how derogatory and how disrespectful that is for somebody to say that you're poverty pimping. But look at how far I've come. I'm not like a lot of these other programs that do one, two, three events a year. No,
mm-hmm.
my programming and what I do for the community continues seasonal. Every season, I'm doing something different. One season, I'm working with the youth and adults. The next season, I'm working with substance abuse and homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Continuously giving back to a community that I once helped to destroy. Why? Because that created my character. That
Mm-hmm.
created real, true integrity. And people ask me, oh, what's integrity? Integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. I don't go out there to do the right thing to get praises, to get applause. No, I do the right thing because I know what I've done. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I am the cause of a mother's hatred, of a brother's hatred, of a sister's hatred. over child's hatred. I can't undo the harm that I've done when I was living that lifestyle. I can't bring back somebody that's no longer alive, but I can spend the rest of my life making up
Mhm.
I once did to the hurt that I once created. I always say, what right do I have to father another child when I'm the cause of a mother's child no longer being here?
Mhm.
See, people talk about being gangster, but they don't know what it is to be gangster. They don't know the psychological warfare
Mhm.
that you go. Why do you think so many of our family members that go to war come back from war with severe PTSD? Because everybody that's a true child of God has a conscience.
Mhm.
And when you know right from wrong, that conscience eats at you. And it eats at you. It eats at everybody individually differently. I've been able to
Mhm.
overcome all that. I've been able to overcome suicidal ideologies. I've been able to overcome addiction. I've been able to overcome severe mental health and depression. But I know that I'm always just one bad choice or one step away from falling back into all of that. And if I'm not real with myself, if I'm not real with my spiritual, my higher power, if I'm not real con Dios, que yo creo,
Mhm.
amo, que yo
Mhm.
sé, that's my salvation.
Mhm.
I'm going to easily fall back into the traps that the devil has for me.
Mhm.
See, nobody can take me away from my mission in life. I'm in the business of saving lives. I'm not in the business of taking lives, right? And the
Mhm.
life that I'm in the business of saving is today's youth. That's why my organization is called and it's titled Inspiring Today's Young Adults. Because these youth, these young, don't really have real OGs like me and you that have walked the walk and talked.
Mhm.
My body's covered in scars of bullets and stab wounds. I look good, yeah, because you can't see how I look underneath
Mhm.
these clothes. But when I
Mhm.
take off these clothes, you see, you see the horrors that I've left.
Mhm.
I'm here by the grace of God. And every day I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And I still have a lot of self care to do. I still have a lot of maturing to do because we men. There's still a
Mhm.
lot to learn about ourselves. But I'm not that same immature, ignorant individual that I was 8 years ago that had no
Mhm.
empathy and no respect towards authority, let alone women. And I'm the father of two beautiful women. One, I'm involved in her life, and the other one, I'm not. Maybe one day I will be, maybe I won't. But you know what? I'm not going to beat myself over it. I'm not going
Mhm.
to not forgive myself because I'm human too. I made the
Mhm.
mistakes that I made in life because I wasn't taught better at that time. I had to teach myself how to be a man.
So, Danny Santana, what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your work, and how do you want to be remembered?
That life is about being in service of others. That there is no greater satisfaction or greater connection to your higher power, like being in service to others without an expecting something in return.
Mhm.
If I was to die today, I would hope to die today that those who love and respect me will ensure that my legacy of ITY never dies. That all the work that I put in the streets to give back to my community will continue. That I have became a role model, an idol, an example of what being And it's not a person that's wearing a collar or that's preaching or has got a title of a deacon or a pastor. No,
Hmm.
my actions speak for itself. The things that I do, the way that I walk, the way that I talk, the people that I associate with. And I tell my kids all the time, your friends are a reflection of who you are.
Hmm.
Growing up, you and I used to hear this all the time. Enséñame con quién tú andas. Did you hear that?
Man, King Eddie. Hmm.
Show me who you walk with, and I'll tell you who you are. You place a man with 100 criminals. What does he learn to be? A criminal, right? You
Hmm.
place a man with 100 Christians. What does he learn to be? A Christian. So
Hmm.
show me who you be with, and I'll tell you exactly who you are.
Where can people find you? Where and how can they reach you?
They can find me on Facebook under Danny Santana or ITYouth.org. They can find me on Instagram under ITYouth.org. They can find me in LinkedIn under Danny Santana. Or they can reach me directly to our website, www.ityouth.org. That's ITYOUTH.org. Or if they're really in need of services and need to contact me, give me a call directly. My number is 857-221-1497. That's how you reach me directly.
I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast for this interview. You know, we got to keep moving. We got to stay focused because this world life is getting worse by the day. But you know, with God, everything, anything is possible. May God bless you always, Danny Santana, and your
I want,
family.
I wanted to say before we stop that I appreciated reading the book that you wrote. I connected with a lot of things that you wrote, that you expressed, and that you explained. And my brother, thank you for giving me a copy of that book when you and I first met. It took me a while to read it, but everything happens for a reason.
Right.
But now that
Amen.
I now that I did have a chance to read that book that you wrote, I'm thankful. Thank you for
You're
sharing that.
welcome, my brother.